When Xiaomi first launched the Mi Note 10, it was the first phone ever to bring us a 108 megapixel image sensor. The Mi Note 10 Lite takes that away. We get a 64 megapixel main image sensor, which is still a very high megapixel image sensor, but it keeps a lot of the design, the materials, and the feel of that Mi Note 10. This is called the Lite version mainly because it takes away that really expensive, unique 108 megapixel image sensor. And it also doesn't have the zoom range of the Mi Note 10 either. But apart from that, this is a very, very similar phone. You still get that 6.5-inch curved AMOLED display, which to be honest, at this price point, this comes at around about 400 euros, 300 odd pounds, about 400 US dollars. So it's right in that price point of the Pixel 4a, which is upcoming, and the iPhone SE. But in terms of design, at this price, you can't really get much better. It keeps the curved AMOLED screen of the Mi Note 10, so 6.5 inches. Just a quality, high-class display. Not too many phones at this price giving you a curved OLED. Even bezels around, and you just get that very small notch up at the top. For what I can see, it's the same as the Mi Note 10, but you just keep a really premium design for this price point. The camera array is just in a line, but they've made this design to make the camera array look a bit bigger, which makes it look a little bit more modern because a lot of 2020 phones are using this wider camera array. They just put that detail on the phone's body, and then they put the flash units up there as well. You get Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back, and those metal sides. I really like this color as well. It's like a gunmetal type of color. I guess if you were Apple, you'd call it space gray. I call it gunmetal. Really, really good. USB-C charging, a single bottom firing speaker down there, and also it does keep the headphone jack, so that's good at this price. It does feel a little bit heavier and slightly thicker than a lot of other phones around this price. And that's for a couple of reasons. The glass and the metal body definitely is just heavier than a lot of the other plastic bodies that you get. And also you get a really big battery. It's a 5,260 milliamp hour battery, which definitely is on the bigger side. And if battery life is anything like the Mi Note 10, which I used for a really long time, it's just absolutely fantastic. Comes with 30 watt fast charging as well. In-screen fingerprint sensor works well, no issues there, very good. And also you can get face unlocking as well. And the camera is not in any pop-ups or anything, so very quick. It uses a Snapdragon 730G in there, so the same as the Mi Note 10, a very well-known chipset by now. It's been out for a while, we know what it can do. It's going to power the phone for normal daily users. Definitely powerful enough to play any games, played PUBG or other games, going to be absolutely no issues. Plus the AMOLED display just makes those contrast ratios and the colors stand out, so no issues there. It is starting to get replaced, this chipset, by some more modern versions, some upgraded versions. But if you want that chipset, then you're going to have to, at this price point, compromise on other things like the design and maybe the camera a little bit more. So depending on what type of phone you want, you can choose accordingly. There's no high refresh rates on the screen for gaming, and the 730G, it's going to power your games, but it's not really high end. But this is of course a mid-range phone, mid-range chipset. And at this price point anyway, you're going to have to make the decision. If you want a high refresh rate screen and you want to go that route, it's probably going to be an LCD display at this price. But the Mi Note 10 Lite has just chosen a really good quality OLED display and curved as well. This is more expensive, and that's where they've spent the money. So this is called the Lite really mainly because it takes away some of the camera features that the Mi Note 10 had, like the zoom cameras and that large 108 megapixel sensor that they're now using in the Mi 10 and Mi 10 Pro. So we get a 64 megapixel main image sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro sensor. You can shoot 4K up to 60 frames a second. There is a slow motion option as well, but 4K 60 is pretty good off the main sensor. When you switch to the ultra wide sensor, if you want to shoot video, no 4K on that sensor. You can shoot 1080p off the ultra wide, 4K off the main sensor. There are no zoom lenses on the phone, but in photo you can zoom up to 10 times. And actually I think up to 10 times, as you can see, it keeps enough detail. I think it's still usable at 10 times, so certainly a useful feature there. The depth sensor also can help with some portrait shots. You also get portrait mode of the selfie camera. That's a 16 megapixel image sensor, and I think the shots turned out pretty good. There is also a night mode on the phone, which you can use on the main image sensor. And actually, it really worked. I think a lot of the night mode shots, as you can see, the non-night mode versus the night mode shots, there's definitely a big change, and it looks much better using night mode, so I'm pretty impressed with that. Also, Xiaomi have been putting a lot of macro sensors in their phones, and actually they're getting pretty good these days, and I think you can take some really interesting shots. You can get really close to objects, so you can have a really short focus distance. It doesn't have the standout specs of its bigger brother like the 108 megapixels and the zoom range, but a very functional camera overall. You can definitely get some good results. And Xiaomi have focused really on this mid-range device, bringing a really premium design for a mid-range phone for sure. You don't see too many phones with just these high-end materials and the curved OLED display. The chipset is going to power most users, and a massive battery, again, bigger than a lot of other phones. So these are the areas that Xiaomi have concentrated on with the Mi Note 10 Lite. Subscribe for all the latest tech news and videos. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.